when we get in these situations, the question that we always ask, very directly, I will add, is, okay, if you want Donovan Mitchell, and I really think the argument is Rudy Gobert. I don't think, and let me just get this out of the way now, I don't think Donovan Mitchell earned a spot on either of the three, any of the three All-NBA teams. That's just my opinion. But, hey, I'm open to the conversation. That's what we do here on the show. I am open to, should Rudy Gobert have been on the All-NBA team? I think you're going to have a tough time arguing for him to be first team. That's Nikola Jokic. He's a stud. I think you're going to have a tough time arguing that he should be on the second team because that's Joel Embiid. And by the way, Joe's a stud. But Karl Anthony Towns, third team All-NBA center versus Rudy Gobert, now that's a conversation that we're here for. And I would tell you, I would go with Karl Anthony Towns. And here's why. The Minnesota Timberwolves were clearly a better team than the Jazz this year. He was at the middle of that team and their success. He facilitates really well for Ant Edwards. He makes the young guys on that team better. He builds confidence with them. Everything they do really focuses in and around on Karl Anthony Towns, especially on the offensive end. And for that reason, Jake, I have to give the nod to Cat over Rudy Gobert.
Yeah, and once again, I think this is a conversation with the Jazz that doesn't just come down to stats, because I think a lot of people think that All-NBA is just stats, and a lot of people want to make the argument with either of these two guys, Don or Rudy, that, oh, well, he's got these great stats. And it's like, sure, they have great stats, but I also think the impact that they make on their team and how their team does and where their team goes really matters. And when I look at Karl Anthony Towns, just like you said, I mean, he was one of the main reasons that they had so much success this year. And I think it doesn't help. Again, I'm sure James Knight's going to be pissed. I'm sure we're going to get another show, another hating on Rudy Gobert. But for me, when I look at All-NBA and I compare Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, the only thing that I'm left with is the offensive side, because we know what Rudy can do defensively. We know that on any given night, Karl Anthony Towns can get the job done defensively, not as much as Rudy. Rudy's a better defender, yes. But I think we could all agree that Karl Anthony Towns is more than a capable defender, can get the job done, no doubt. But it's the offensive side of the ball where we see this disparity. And I think that's really the tough part, because there are nights where Karl Anthony Towns is on SportsCenter dropping 40 and having some ridiculous night from three-point land. And Rudy, right now, in his game, doesn't have that opportunity. And so when it comes to things like all-star teams and all-NBA teams and really individual accolades, outside of Defensive Player of the Year, are we really even having a fair fight for these other accolades? And that's kind of the point I want to hammer home with Rudy Gobert. It's not even, again, and I'm not hating on Rudy. I'm just being honest. Like, I don't really even think it's a fair fight for Rudy when he's compared to, like you were saying, it's not really even a comparison, but Jokic and Embiid and Karl Anthony Towns and in hell. I mean, obviously Anthony Davis has been hurt, for a long time now. But even when Davis is healthy, we've had that conversation. So that's why I say for Rudy, I don't even think it's really a fair fight. And I don't think it's fair to sit here and say, well, Rudy should have been All-NBA, even though these guys have, both sides of the ball. They do great things. Like, let's not take away from those guys. I think the conversation, I have to be honest, when you first look at the conversation for Don, from a stats perspective, he scores more points, but he lacks in other areas compared to the competition on these lists. Like, he's got more points than, a Trae Young or even Chris Paul. But those guys have more assists. They have more rebounds. They do other things. They're more of a complete package. So for Don, I think the argument's a little bit closer, but I tend to agree with you. I think these other guys who are on the list did more this particular season to get on the All-NBA team. And this is kind of what I was getting to. The last thing I'll say is, I said this earlier in the week, when this roster changes, when they put better opportunities around Donovan Mitchell on a nightly basis, he will get on the All-NBA team. He will be not that he's not now, but he'll be a really bona fide all-star every year. You will know about Don nationally. It will be a lot better of a situation for him. So I have to agree with you.
Yeah, and it's not these conversations are very difficult to have. I think when you look at, guys like Donovan Mitchell, guys like Rudy Gobert, I mean, these are very difficult comparisons that we're making. I mean, and let's start with the case for Donovan, because again, I just want to make it really clear. I do not believe that Donovan Mitchell should have been first, second, or third team. I don't believe that he should have been all NBA. I think the injuries continue to hit him. I think the level of fall off for the club when you're the best player on a team, and your team falls considerably behind where it was. Just all of these things. There's a lot of reasons why you don't feel like Donovan Mitchell was a snub. But if I look at first team with Donovan Mitchell, you tell me who he should have been there instead of Luka Doncic or Devin Booker. Those are two better players by a long shot than Donovan Mitchell. And I should say they had much better seasons than Donovan Mitchell had when you look at Luka and Devin Booker. And you're looking now at the success that the Dallas Mavericks and the Phoenix Suns had this year. There's not even a conversation to be had about first team, in my opinion.
Right.
And by the way, I think Devin Booker earned it. I obviously, in Jazz Nation, Devin Booker is a very controversial figure. I understand that. I know a lot of Jazz fans love to hate on Book, and the bottom line is Devin Booker had a huge season of growth, and he's now Supermax eligible, which I would have to believe the Phoenix Suns are going to gift him with a Supermax at some point very soon. So I don't think there's a conversation between Don and Luka or Don and Devin. I think those guys are two of the best guards in the world, and I think they rightly earned first team All NBA. If you look at second team, John Morant and Steph Curry. Take Steph Curry out of the conversation. I think the guy is just an elite player. He is. I mean, I think you could argue whether or not he belongs first team over Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
Does Steph belong over Devin Booker? I think you could have a conversation about either one of those. John Morant's an interesting one because I think, again, you're dealing with a young player. And when you compare John Morant to Donovan Mitchell, unfortunately, I think I have to take John Morant over Donovan Mitchell. I think he is a more well-rounded player. I think he has shown an ability to finish in the paint. He certainly is more explosive than Don has showed in the last couple of years. And I think he is a guy that has just got the it factor to it. And again, I think a lot of this conversation has changed with Donovan Mitchell specifically over this past season. A year ago, I'm taking Donovan Mitchell over John Morant. There's no doubt about that. The growth that we saw in John Morant's game this year, particularly with the jump shot and the mid-range game, I think made him pass by Donovan Mitchell, as difficult as that is. So, Jake, I don't even know that in the first two, I mean, as far as, and this is just Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
I'm not taking Don over any, certainly, of Luka, Booker, and Curry. I think there is some conversation to be had about John Morant, but again, I think I'm taking Ja over Devin Booker Ja over Donovan Mitchell in those first two teams.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you. And I think what was so fascinating yesterday is that Jazz Nation on Twitter, like, you know how you open the Twitter app and, all NBA is trending. And of course, because my phone pings the Salt Lake City geography with Twitter, what am I going to see? I'm going to see a lot of Jazz talk, a lot of people tweeting about it. And so what do I see when I roll up into All NBA on Twitter? Oh my God, explain this. How is Don not first team and Devin Booker had just barely a better season? And I really don't like when we do that in sports. Just barely a better season. Whether it's by like on the football field. Whether you got the first down by an inch or 5 yards, it's a first down. I think we can all agree on that. And I think we could also agree that Devin Booker is more of a superstar right now than Donovan Mitchell is. And I don't think that's a slight to Donovan Mitchell. I just think Don has work to do. So I agree with you. When I look at these lists, I'm definitely taking Book over Don right now. He's got a better mid-range, in my opinion. The three ball, to me, while it is inconsistent for Book at times, he does hit it, with enough regularity that it's a weapon in his game. And I also think the attitude he plays with, and this is what I think really separates him from Don. The attitude that Book rolls out there with every single night is, I want to end you, Does he show up 0 for or 1 for a gazillion in their elimination game? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. But that doesn't mean he shouldn't be All NBA first team. And I think that's what we like to do. Well, he didn't show up for his team in the biggest moment of the year, so we shouldn't be all NBA. That's not fair. That's not true. That was one game and he had a bad game, just like Don or Luka or anybody else. So I would definitely take Book over Don for first team all NBA. Luka's not even a conversation. Don's nowhere even, in my opinion, even in the same stratosphere as Luka right now. Secondly, I think when you talk about Ja Morant, this one's close, but I agree. Ja is more explosive. Ja is better in transition. Ja is, more of a dagger kind of player where you're like, all right, look out. If you put Ja on the Utah Jazz, what does that look like? If you put Don on the Memphis Grizzlies, what does that look like? That's where my mind goes. And I think, again, with all due respect to Don, if you put Ja Morant on the Utah Jazz this year with everything they deal with, I think they go a bit further. But that's my opinion.
I don't know that you can disagree with that. I mean, obviously health plays a role. Both those guys missed significant minutes. Obviously, Ja was hurt in the playoffs at the end, but he missed a long stretch of the season as well. But I don't think there's even an argument to be had there, and it's not an anti-Don take. I just think that Don had a really difficult season. Mm-hmm. And whether it was injuries, whether it was production late in the season, clutch moments, playoff production, certainly in the Dallas series, Don had a very difficult season. So I really struggle when we talk about is A better than B when it comes to NBA players, but I don't think there's any doubt that everybody that we mentioned on this guard list had a better season than Don did. Mm-hmm. So I think that's justified. Now, Rudy Gobert, that's a completely different conversation. I think this one is a much, much more difficult one to argue about. Like, I look at the first two teams for Rudy Gobert, and I'm telling you right now, Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid are simply better players than Rudy Gobert is. And note, I didn't say they're better defenders. They're better all-around players. Those are MVP candidates. Those are guys that their teams are built around, and their teams are very, very good, right? Now, you want to talk about third team with the center position, Karl Anthony Towns versus Rudy Gobert. Simple, and we can get this in the comments too. Which guy do you want, Karl Anthony Towns or Rudy Gobert? In today's NBA, I'm taking Karl Anthony Towns. Now, having said that, I think this is a much, much closer conversation. And I think if you want to argue statistics, I think Karl Anthony Towns has Rudy Gobert beat significantly when it comes to statistics. But when you look at the impact on the game, there's no doubt that Karl Anthony Towns has a more talented Minnesota Timberwolves team. I mean, the roster in Minnesota is just better than the roster in Utah. It is more diverse. It is much, much, much younger, right? And it's just more dynamic. That absolutely makes a difference, and it much more helps Karl Anthony Towns. The roster in Utah, without a doubt, I think everybody would agree, hurts Rudy Gobert because there's just not athleticism, guys who are capable, willing defenders. There's just not those guys on this roster. Mm-hmm. But when we talk about all NBA and we talk about the 4 or 5 best centers in the NBA, this is an offensive league. And so, again, when we talk about Karl Anthony Towns versus Rudy Gobert, who had a better season? I don't think you can make an argument that Rudy Gobert had a better season than Karl Anthony Towns. Can we argue that maybe Rudy Gobert is a better player? No, I don't think you can make that argument either because I think Karl Anthony Towns is prototypical big in this league. He shoots threes. I mean, you look at his numbers. The guy averages 24.6 points a game. He averages 10 boards a game, and he averages 4 assists a game.
Yeah.
Rudy Gobert is not giving you that kind of balanced production. Now, obviously, Rudy's the best rebounder in the NBA offensively and defensively. Absolutely. But his limitations on offense as far as point production and where that production comes from, that's where this conversation really changes. The usage rate for Karl Anthony Towns, he's at the middle of everything that the Timberwolves do.
Yeah.
So it's really hard, Jake, for me to give the nod to Rudy Gobert over Karl Anthony Towns.
Well, and I think the hard thing and this is inevitably where we always wind up with any Rudy conversation. How do you, and this I think is a question, how do you quantify or measure or weigh how Rudy Gobert impacts the offensive side of the ball without shooting the basketball? So as an example, just as an example comparison, does it have a bigger impact on the game when Karl Anthony Towns is knocking down the three, Or does it have a bigger impact on the game when Rudy sets a really good, strong pick and then Donovan comes off of that to knock down the three? Because Rudy won't get those points in the box score, but Rudy is helping make that happen. And I think that is what the kind of the gripe is for Jazz fans. So for me, my opinion is when we're talking all NBA, we're not talking about hey, the absolute, impact you have on the floor. It's kind of this combination of things. And I think when you're asking people to vote for you, it's a lot easier to vote for you when you can put a highlight reel up in front of somebody of you having a 40-point performance and 10 of those were threes, or of you having good footwork in the paint and having a back-to-the-basket game. It's a lot easier to win these awards when you can get your own, and that's the problem.
Yeah, and I think getting your own in this league is really important. But then again, I look at third team, and I look at the guard situation on third team, and I say to myself, well, is Devin Booker and Steph Curry and all those guys on first and second team, did they have better seasons than Donovan? Yeah, without a doubt. Is Trae Young having a better season than Donovan Mitchell, where Trae is 28.5 points a game, 9 dimes, and 4 boards?
Donovan's at 25-9, 4 boards, 5 assists.
I think it's very close. I think Donovan's a far more dynamic player. But again, perceptions being reality, I think Trae Young is when it comes down to popularity, Trae Young's a more popular player because of what he did in New York last year. Mm-hmm. And so I again, when I look at the argument for all NBA and was there a snub here, I don't know. Now, this next guy that I'm going to mention, third team all NBA, I think is ridiculous. Chris Paul.
Yeah, I have a problem with this one.
Chris Paul, to me, should not be third team all NBA. I think Darius Garland should be third team all NBA. I think that's the guy that was a significant snub here. Darius Garland, 22 points, 9 dimes, 3.5 rebounds a game. And the guy is absolutely the straw that stirs the drink in Cleveland. Like, Darius Garland, and that's just my opinion. Like, note I'm not saying who are some of the other guards that were snubs. Guys like Zach Levine. I'm not looking at, DeJounte Murray, let's say.
Yeah.
Like, I think the guy that was snubbed in the guard rotation is Darius Garland. Mm-hmm. I think Darius Garland belonged on third team All-NBA. But I think, again, when we talk about popularity, I think that Chris Paul is an enormously popular figure.
Yep.
And by the way, he's the reason that the Phoenix Suns went to the NBA Finals last year. And there is always a residual carryover from the year before to this year, right? I think he's the reason that Devin Booker has had the growth over the last 2 years that he's seen. I think he gets a lot of credit for that. I think people believe that he's a phenomenal leader. He gets a lot of credit for that. I think he's an incredible politician. He gets a lot of credit for that.
Yeah.
Darius Garland probably doesn't have 0.1% of the relationships in the NBA that a guy like a Chris Paul has. But if we're just talking credentials and worthiness, there's no doubt in my mind Darius Garland should have been that guy on third team All-NBA instead of Chris Paul.
Yeah, and I completely agree. And I think, the other point we can make here is for all my stat nerds out there, one thing that really stands out about Chris Paul's numbers, he's only averaging 14 points a game, but he's got 10 assists a game, bro. 10 assists, which tells you he's playmaking a lot and putting guys in position. And it also tells you the guys around him are getting buckets. Devin Booker, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder. And when you look at, I don't have Darius's numbers, but just Don's numbers here, Don's only got 5 assists a game, but he's got 25 a night. And so it's kind of this thing where I'm telling you guys.
But isn't that the roster as well, though?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, imagine if Don had 25 a night, but also had, a knockdown shooter in the corner or these things that he could work with. He would have 8, 9, 10 assists a night.
If he trusted his teammates.
Yes.
Part of this is on the roster. Part of this is on Donovan. When you talk about Rudy Gobert, Rudy's really limited in his skill set, right? So you know what he's not capable of offensively. We have no idea what Don's capable of. We don't know what his growth potential or his ceiling is. But my point is, Don is the one who really controls his numbers because he is a guy that should be 8, 9 times a game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But he also doesn't trust his teammates because Royce O'Neal doesn't want to shoot. So I can't blame him for not trusting Royce. Bogey's the one, and I know I've talked about this a lot, but Bogey's the one that really sticks in my craw. Like, Donovan Mitchell needs to kick the ball Boyan Bogdanovic every chance he gets. And a lot of times he doesn't. Sometimes he does, but a lot of times he doesn't. But this exact conversation is why Donovan Mitchell is not third-team All-NBA.
Yeah.
So, and I also think that they were so bad defensively, Donovan's got to be a better, more willing defender. And if Donovan were a better, more willing defender and had more steals and, ran breaks off of steals he created and dished to Rudy for an alley-oop on the break, maybe those assist numbers are significantly better.
Yep.
Maybe the usage rate goes up. So there's all of this stuff that comes out of Don's got to be a better defender. There's no doubt about that. I mean, I want to say it's Garcia who always leaves the D off his name and says no D. I get it. He's got to be a better defender. So there are definitely some snubs for all NBA. I look at some of the other names. Can anybody explain to me how Jimmy Butler is not third team All NBA?
Yeah.
When I look at the forwards in particular on third team are ridiculous. I look at LeBron James. I think LeBron's a huge snub for second team. I don't believe that he belongs in first team, but LeBron James should have been third team All-NBA or second team All-NBA over DeMar DeRozan. Mm-hmm. He just should have been. I mean, the numbers on a really trashy Laker team that was terrible all season long, and the elite high-level performance and what he was able to do. If you look at LeBron's numbers and you consider just how terrible the Lakers were, LeBron put up 30 points a game, 8 rebounds, and 6 dimes.
Crazy.
How did he do that? How?
Yeah.
On that team. How did he do that?
Playing with Austin Reeves.
And he's not second team All-NBA? Are you serious right now? To me, LeBron got snubbed. Even though he made third team, LeBron James got snubbed for second team. You look at first team, I don't think you can take anything away from Luka, Book, Giannis, Tatum, or Nikola Jokic. Those 5 guys had phenomenal seasons. I don't think you can argue to break them down. But I look at second team, and DeMar DeRozan absolutely is. And I'm a Chicago Bulls fan, and he was spectacular for what he did for that team. That D-Rose scored 28 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 dimes, and is arguably the best mid-range player in the Eastern Conference.
Multiple game winners this year.
He should have been third team All-NBA. LeBron fucking James should have been second team All-NBA.
How much of the LeBron thing is the fact that, we kind of are just accustomed to him dominating the game. I really believe in that. Hey, you've been dominating so long that we've lost the appreciation for 30 and 8 over the course of a season.
You know what I think it is? I think there's a LeBron hangover. I think all of the mess, he takes a lot of heat for what happened to the Lakers. And I think that I don't how would I quantify this? What's an example? Russell Westbrook to the Lakers.
Yeah.
I bet you in all the NBA conversations that I have, I hear about LeBron's decision to force a Russell Westbrook trade.
Yeah.
A lot. We hear about that a lot. Like in Rudy Gobert, Houston Laker trade rumors. Well, if LeBron hadn't forced Westbrook, I hear that all the time. And so I think he takes a beating for that. Mm-hmm. I think there is a lot of LeBron burnout in this league. I think people would be thrilled if LeBron had an heir apparent. And there's not an heir apparent right now. There is not. Luka's probably as close to that heir apparent as you're going to get. And I think there is significant dislike of Luka Doncic around the NBA because of his antics. I thought it was incredible the other night in the Warriors game. Luka yanks Andrew Wiggins' arm to the floor, falls down, throws his arms up in the air, and the official blows the whistle for Luka Doncic and calls a foul on Andrew Wiggins.
Yeah.
Even though Luka is yanking his arm, has both of his arms cradling and holding Wiggins' arm, yanks Wiggins down, they still call a foul on Wiggins.
Yeah.
I think there's burnout on that kind of antics because they're up 25 at one point the other day. I think that was whatever game that was.
Yeah.
And Luka is complaining to the officials about calls. and you show the replay and there's no foul there, and he's still complaining. I think there's a lot of that on Luka. I think there's a lot of that on LeBron, just general LeBron burnout.
Yeah.
I think people would love for there to be an heir apparent to LeBron, and right now I just don't think there is. So it'll be interesting to see, how he is respected going forward. But LeBron James, without question, had a monster season.
Well, and I think this season coming up could be one of his best, even with the age, because of all the rest. I mean, we've never seen a LeBron James, that's rested and has. I mean, what is he going to have here? Like 6 months?
Yeah, he has an awful lot to prove. I mean, I think LeBron's legacy is on the line this coming season, and I know that might be crazy because he's got multiple rings, blah, blah, blah. He is being argued as the best player to ever take the court in the NBA. Nobody believes that now. So can he regain that mantle? No, probably not. I don't think he's ever on Kobe and Mike's level. But if he wins another championship, he's probably the best player in the modern era. In his generation, he's probably that best player that we've seen, right? And I think if that happens, if he wins another championship, okay, we're having a different conversation about LeBron because he's 64 years old now.
Yeah.
And he absolutely wrecked the LA Lakers this past season. As good as his year was, Russell Westbrook being a Laker, and the rumors around the NBA that the Lakers didn't want to trade Russ at the deadline because they didn't want to upset LeBron.
Crazy.
Because they had a John Wall, Eric Gordon deal done.
And how would that? And I think the thing that was so crazy about that is John Wall and Eric Gordon with LeBron works. That works, man. Like Eric Gordon can knock it down. I think a lot of people would say, well, we don't know what we got in John Wall right now. Well, I can tell you what I think we got, and that's a guy who can definitely play in transition. Can he stay healthy over the course of an NBA year? Well, that remains to be seen.
Hasn't played in the NBA in 18 months.
Yeah. Can he
stay
healthy?
The guy's healthy.
Yeah.
He's had major injuries. John Wall can play.
Yeah.
John Wall, and the other thing about John Wall that you have to respect, John Wall practiced hard, played hard in practice, mentored the young guys. That's a very young team. All of those guys, Jalen Green, everybody on that team, raved about his leadership and his mentoring in games, in shoot-arounds, on flights. John Wall did it right.
Well, and even when he wasn't playing, because there was a time where he was a Rocket, but he wasn't playing, but he was practicing.
Yeah, well, this whole year he played in practice. He practiced with them.
Yeah.
They said to him, "We're not going to play you in games."
Yeah.
He stayed with the team. He mentored them. He worked with them. He stayed in touch with that team.
It's a good business decision.
And I think, and Eric Gordon the same. Eric Gordon has no business being on one of the worst teams in the NBA. Eric Gordon is a legit sniper in this league. He can shoot the three. He has no business being on that team.
Yeah.
Yet he was a pro. He worked with them. He mentored them. To me, those two guys would have been huge assets to the Lakers. Huge assets. And my guess is you're going to see both those guys not Rockets when training camp opens.
And I think the thing that was upsetting to me is the Lakers aren't willing to give up a first-round pick to offload Russell Westbrook. And I just think that the idea that you had the season you had and you went out the way you went out, and then we're getting the Lakers essentially trying to sort of massage the idea that Russ is going to be back and now he's definitely going to be back is just bonkers to me. But I don't get it.
I think one of the other interesting conversations that needs to be had about the Jazz here is what is the level of respect for the Utah Jazz around the NBA? Because I think, and I'm trying to be gentle with this, but I just think they're a non-factor in most people's minds. Mm-hmm. Nobody thinks about the Jazz because nobody fears the Jazz or respects the Jazz. And I think that's a huge problem when all NBA voting comes around. I think it's a huge problem when you pick Rudy Gobert last in the All-Star game, right? It's embarrassing.
James Harden.
Exactly. And Rudy Gobert was a pawn to spite James Harden. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So you look at all this stuff, and I just think there's a lack of respect for the Utah Jazz, which the trickle-down impact on that is Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert are not all NBA. They're not. Now, again, I think it's really difficult to make an argument for either guy over anybody that was on those teams. But there's a lack of respect for the Utah Jazz around the NBA.
Yeah.
There is. And I think that's why I say we're all really thirsty as observers and people that cover the Jazz, and you as a fan, you are really thirsty for good in this organization. Because ask yourself this question: how long has it been since we had good news? How long has it been since something good, positive, forward momentum happened with the Utah Jazz? I would say it's probably back to the first week of December when Danny Ainge was hired.
Yeah.
Full time.
Yeah.
Like when that became official, because, we knew in June, July that Danny Ainge had a role in a framework that hit what his role was going to be. He didn't officially come on board until December.
Mm-hmm.
That moment it has been, in my mind, the last time there was something truly positive for the Utah Jazz. And I think that's part of the conversation. Please, if you're here watching the show right now, give us a thumbs up and a like. It really helps the channel grow. We had a big day for subscribers the last couple of days. You guys have really supported the channel. Thank you for that. Again, we're giving away a $250 gas card. All you have to do is go follow us on TikTok, The Monty Show, Monty, The Monty Show. Leave a comment on our TikTok channel. Hey, I found you on YouTube. Leave a comment on the YouTube video for the Maverick gift card giveaway. Hey, I follow you on TikTok. That's the only way we're going to know that you guys are in the contest. Yeah. It's the only way you can win the $250 gift card is to comment on the YouTube video and comment on the TikTok video, because then we know you follow on both. We're also giving away a PS5 when we get to 5,000, so please do give us a thumbs up if you're here right now and a like. Let's talk about Ryan Smith, the owner of the Utah Jazz. He sat down on a podcast, an NBA podcast, which, Jake, do you remember the name of that? Because I'm old and I forget.
It is Point Forward with Andre Iguodala and Evan Turner.
Right, Point Forward.
Point Forward.
So it's a pretty good podcast. I listened to it on kind of a semi-regular basis. I've heard it a couple of times. But I saw Ryan Smith on that podcast, and so I decided to listen to it.
Mm-hmm.
And what are some of the things that you took away from that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think some of the biggest things I took away from it is, first off, and we're going to play some sound here, but Ryan, generally speaking, is a very genuine dude. Like, I feel like in sports, if you think about the biggest owners in sports, I'm not just talking the NBA, like just in sports, a lot of times owners of organizations are like these far off kings of the land that we can't relate to and we don't know. And what I really appreciate about Ryan is that he is somebody who started small. He's somebody, he has the American dream type story, with Qualtrics and then that whole thing, and you can go find that. But I think the biggest thing about Ryan is that he's very genuine. And I think that, something that I took away from this podcast was he really cares about winning, which you're going to hear, but he cares about winning, and he cares about sort of ushering the organization in a positive way. Like, okay, the Millers ran this thing for 30 years, and now I've taken this over. I'm not going to let this thing just go into a dumpster fire.
And I thought that was interesting. The comment he made, one of the comments he made on this podcast was that, he has respect for, I mean, is that the right way to say it? That he has respect for what the Millers had here.
Yeah, I think he has a lot of respect for what the Millers had and did. And I also think that because of who he is as a person, because he is an entrepreneur, he started his own company. He then, did a bunch of stuff. And he is from Utah. That's the other thing. He's from Utah. And he really takes a lot of pride in building a Utah brand. So I want to play this bite first off, talking about bringing in D-Wade and kind of building the ownership circle, if you will.
We kind of closed the deal. We were going through it, and then I get a call from D-Wade saying, hey, talk to me about ownership. And I was like, whoa. Like, right. I'm looking at this team, and this is here. And I was like, well, if I was ever going to go down a road, you'd probably be the number one draft pick, D-Wade, right? like everyone loves D-Wade. Like, and I had known him through Clark and like everything else, just like Dre, like we do. And it became like, we sat down, we talked, and it was like, hey, look, I think that like you could really help the group shape. And
so he's very genuine. That's what I noticed. Like,
he's just a guy.
Yeah. He's not sitting here talking about like stuff that we can't relate to. And then the second thing that we have here, and this is really the one that you should pay attention to, is him talking about getting Danny Ainge involved in really winning championships.
We recently, brought in Danny Ainge, who, I've known for 15 years, and I think he's one of the best basketball minds in the world, 44 years in the league, player, coach, president. And It's kind of seen it all with 3 rings. And like, I think that, between 6 rings of D-Wade and Ainge, like, I think they got a pretty good idea what that level looks like. And the thing I hope to be able to add is, the only thing we're missing in Utah is we just don't have a championship.
Right.
And that is like, if I could bring that and we could bring that for this group, for the Miller family, like, that's what we want. How that goes, I don't think anyone knows.
Yeah, well, there you go. Jazz owner Ryan Smith talking about winning a championship. I mean, I really like him as a guy. I think he is one of the most important figures in this state. But I am disappointed in the first 2 years of his ownership. And I know that might sound harsh, but we were talking earlier that this team needs a win.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ryan Smith needs a win. And I understand the guy's a billionaire and he's hip and he's cool and this is a good story. But we need a win. And whether that is, and I don't mean win a championship. That's the ultimate goal, right? But when I'm talking about Ryan Smith, the owner of the Utah Jazz, we need to start winning in singular moments. Let's have our uniform release that's really exciting, that gets Jazz fans to the team store. I'm not sure that's going to happen if and I'm told that we'll see uniform release for the Jazz during the finals. If it's the uniforms that we've seen, that's not a win, that's a loss. Because I don't know a Jazz fan, and I know hundreds and hundreds of Jazz fans. I don't know a single Jazz fan that likes that uniform.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move past that. Roster recovery, roster rebuilding. We need a win there. We need Danny Ainge, who is Ryan Smith's guy. They've known each other for 15 years. They're friends. He's got multiple rings. We need a win, and that means we need a big trade, and we need a transformative trade. We need a moment where you take a piece of this team, or multiple pieces, hopefully, of this team, of this roster, and you turn them into gold. We need that win because we haven't had that win. And I think one of the questions that I have is, are we going through growing pains with Ryan Smith as a new owner of an NBA franchise? And I don't think that's unexpected. I don't think that's his fault. But when you talk about surrounding yourself with guys who've done what you're trying to do, Danny Ainge and Dwayne Wade have never done what you're trying to do. They've never owned a team. They've never taken a team from the bottom to the top as an owner, right? Is Danny Ainge a good basketball executive? Hell of a basketball executive. Is Dwayne Wade a phenomenal, NBA player? He was. Absolutely, he was. Dwayne Wade with the LeBron James decision in that moment, and he was part of one of the biggest moments in the history of the NBA. But none of them have owned a team, and none of them have built a champion.
Yeah.
And to me, the biggest question is Ryan Smith? He's capable. There's no doubt. Will Ryan Smith win a ring? Yes, he's going to win multiple NBA championships. I have no doubt about that. But how many mistakes are going to be made along the way? That's what we got to know. I think this team needs a win so badly this summer, whether it's the uniforms, the rebrand, the roster. Jake, I think this team is so thirsty for a win.
Yeah, and the thing that concerns me about Ryan Smith is not his ability to balance a profit and loss sheet. I think he knows how to do that at a really high level. I think what concerns me is he thinks that because he's been successful in business ventures and he is very entrepreneurial, lives on the edge, like all entrepreneurs do, I think he thinks that equates to building an NBA team and building a juggernaut in the league.
Right.
And while you can build a juggernaut in marketing and branding, the on-the-floor stuff, that is not his strong
But
suit.
he has not had a win in marketing and branding.
Yeah,
Like
which is surprising.
If you look at the TV deal,
Yeah.
the TV deal is probably the most painful thing for any Jazz fan. There is no easy way to watch Jazz games. And again, this is why I tell you, I'm a Dish Pros customer, right? They don't advertise on the show, nothing. They don't support us in any way, shape, or form. The reason I'm a Dish Pros customer is because they can put Jazz games on my TV 82 times a season.
Yeah.
That's why I'm a Dish Pros customer. because I get every Jazz game. And unfortunately, it's a struggle for a lot of Jazz fans to watch games on TV. Ryan Smith has got to fix that. That's got to be the number one priority, in my opinion, because what good are uniforms if your fans can't see them on a regular basis, right?
Seriously.
How do they grow on you if you don't get to watch them on TV regularly? The other thing that I am really thirsty for is digital content. You are supposedly somebody that operates in the digital space at a really high level. Give me content. You went to BYU, and I think BYU, on the whole, whether it's BYU TV, BYU radio,
BYU,
it doesn't matter what their digital product is. It's fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that they do with the coaches shows, the stuff that they do with Greg Wrubell, the stuff that they do with the church, like that's what I need from the Jazz. What I need is incredible daily digest-like content. I need an Inside the Jazz. I need Hard Knocks with the Jazz every single day where the ugly is exposed. I need that content. I need daily video content. How are we in 2022, Ryan Smith? And I don't get daily post-game video. Get daily. Every single game, I want a Jazz camera in the face of a Jazz player passionately talking about what happened on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
I want Donovan Mitchell. I want to see Donovan Mitchell when he limps back to the locker room. I want a Jazz camera back there showing him limping around, showing him in the locker room, showing him on the training table. I want bus rides and plane flights. I want practice. I want locker room. I want hijinks. I don't just want videos of Joe Ingles presenting Jordan Clarkson the Sixth Man of the Year award. That was phenomenal. You know what I want? I want hugs and tears when Joe Ingles found out he was traded.
Yeah.
That's what I want. But we don't get that. We don't have a streaming deal. We don't have a TV deal. We don't have an alternative content deal. Why not? Like, why hasn't that happened? To me, those are when you talk about marketing, that's what is shocking to me. It's been 2 years, man.
And you're in a league that really facilitates it, by the way.
And this is why the Lakers make more money. Yeah, they're in LA, but they also have, their own TV channel. They have their own digital stuff. Like, they put that stuff out on a daily basis. The Utah Jazz in this town should be a 365 business.
Yeah.
And it's not.
Yeah.
It absolutely is not. And I love, Ryan, I love what you do with scholarships. I love what you do in the community. But for instance, and I don't know why I'm just riffing on Ryan Smith, I'm waiting for that seminal moment where Ryan Smith becomes the owner of the Jazz. It's not pen to paper, man. It's not. It's that moment on gun violence. It's that moment on drug overdoses and addiction in this town. That's what I'm waiting for.
Yeah.
But you also got to have third-tier content. You also got to have streaming. You also got to have a TV deal. You also have to, like, all this stuff. And it's just not there. So I'm just waiting for a win. I'm sorry to riff. I'm
think,
really passionate about Ryan Smith.
Yeah,
I think,
am. But this is what's really important. That's the most important point you make. You're really passionate, and I think we could all agree this is something we could get around. We're all really passionate about Ryan Smith because we know what the potential is. We're really excited about Donovan Mitchell because we know what the potential is. We know this guy could be the guy since the first guy in this organization to lead the team on the floor since Stockton and Malone. That's why you get excited about these different individuals because they have the potential. I don't want Ryan Smith to roll in here, a Silicon, Slopes guy from Utah, BYU guy, and be an absolute failure. Nobody wants that. That's not good for our show.
And he's done well.
Yeah.
In that he's not a guy that sits on his wallet and tells you how many B's are in his bank account. Like, he's spending money, not wisely so far, but he's spending money, right? He is doing things that he thinks are good. But that's why I say he's a new owner. He's making new owner mistakes.
Yeah.
Right? He's now got to stop that process. And he's got to move on from that. You don't tweet that you're not going to trade Joe Ingles when you and I both damn well know you're going to trade Joe Ingles.
Yes.
That's a mistake. That is a mistake. You don't ostracize, in my opinion, your players from the public by closing the locker room.
Yeah.
You don't allow your players. If I'm Ryan Smith, my players need to do locker room clean out. My players, every single one of them, it is inexcusable and unacceptable for you not to be there when we win and when we lose.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable because that's how you marry players and fans. And that's all that matters. Because ultimately, if it costs you beer sales, it was a mistake. If this jersey sucks, you know what I'd like? If it truly is the representation, and oddly, it's the one thing that my Jazz people will not talk to me about, is this jersey release.
Which makes you think, hey, maybe it's not.
You know what I'd like? I'd like Ryan Smith to stand up and say, okay, you know what? This has been a huge mistake for us. We made a big mistake. Jazz fans, we heard you. You don't like the new jersey. We're going to work on it. And that to me would be a huge win for this team. I don't think he'll do it. I really don't. And if they release these uniforms and they are as bad as we hope they're not, man, that's going to be a rough thing.
Yeah.
Because you're coming off of one of the worst seasons in recent memory as far as disappointment goes.
So much struggle.
And now you're going to release this jersey that everybody hates. I'm telling you. I want to read the comments on this. I truly do. Gene Stream Gamer says 4.2 thousand followers already, guys. Let's get to 5K subs on this channel for the giveaway. How about Gobert for exchange on AD? The Lakers could land Kyrie back. Boy, did you hear?
Oh man, dude, we should talk. Let's talk about it real quick because this is a big deal.
The Brooklyn Nets are not. They have officially said we are not extending Kyrie Irving.
Get the fuck out!
Wow.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him.
And immediately, people said, again, nah, I'm always right. Monty, you fat fuck. You're always saying you're right. What did I tell you? Kyrie Irving for Russell Westbrook solves everybody's problems. It solves everybody's problem. Russell Westbrook playing alongside Kevin Durant is the perfect guy.
But
in that mix.
Yeah, but Russ and Ben Simmons next to each other. I don't know about that.
I think Russ and Ben Simmons works perfectly because Russ is a guy who needs to be able to score. And to do that, he's going to have to fix that jump shot. I don't know where that thing went. He used to be able to shoot, and now he can't shoot at all. But Ben Simmons attacking the basket, distributing. Russell Westbrook is best off the ball because he moves really well away from the basketball. And Ben Simmons is a defensive stud. And Kevin Durant, to thrive, has to be the bro, the dude, the alpha male. And he on that team, when Kyrie's gone, because he's going to be gone, I think there's a real chance the Lakers wind up with Kyrie Irving.
But there's a lot of rumors that if Kyrie goes, that Kevin's out. That's the thing that I'm curious about. Is Kevin Durant... Did Kevin Durant get upset or feel disrespected by the Nets not extending Kyrie Irving?
He did not. And well, so sources say. Like I was talking to an NBA guy the other day on the Donovan Mitchell trade thing.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this Kyrie Irving story. And we were talking about Kevin Durant because there's been this rumor that Kevin would ask out if Kyrie left.
Yeah.
And there's a belief in the NBA that Kevin Durant was frustrated with being the only guy who gave a damn about that team.
So get your facts straight.
And that and there's no doubt Kevin Durant was happy to see James Harden go.
Yeah.
But his relationship with Kyrie deteriorated once Ramadan started and Kyrie Irving was fasting and unable to play in the first half of that game. There's a lot of people, you guys might remember, that, first of all, Kyrie Irving is a devout Muslim. And so part of the Muslim faith requires you to fast sun up to sundown during a period called Ramadan, which is one of the holiest times of the year in the Muslim faith. So you would see Kyrie Irving coming out of the locker room, 10 seconds after official sundown. He's coming out of the locker room with a ham and cheese sandwich on a paper plate.
Yeah.
Because he hasn't eaten all day. And it's the second quarter. And the guy is dead on his feet. And he's coming out of the locker room with food.
And Kevin's trying to beat Boston.
And Kevin's trying to beat Boston.
Alone.
And there's a lot of people who believe that he's had enough of the won't do the thing in the arm that I can't talk about on YouTube because they block us when we do that.
Yeah.
That he wouldn't take that step for his teammates. And Kevin roundly and loudly supported him through that time. Through all of the home games that Kyrie missed because he wouldn't take the thing in the arm for the thing to stop the thing from being the thing.
That's fucking interesting, man.
And stuff. And Kevin Durant roundly supported him. And at every turn, Kyrie Irving has put himself before the team.
Yeah.
And I think, and I understand, being Muslim is not debatable. It's not debatable. And I get that. But Kevin Durant had enough of being the only guy.
Yeah, it is debatable for Kevin Durant. It's not debatable for Kyrie. And
Yeah.
the thing is that whether Kyrie likes this or not, Kyrie's always going to be the Robin to the Batman. Kyrie is always going to be the second tier guy. And
Yeah.
that's just how it is. And I don't blame Kevin at all, man. I don't.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. It will be interesting to see what happens with Kyrie Irving. Because he and I don't remember feeling this way about him during the season, but just in talking to guys around the league, I don't think he's in as much demand as he used to be.
No.
He is, oddly, what, with the other thing hanging over Kyrie Irving, his broken relationship with Nike is really a troubling sign for a lot of NBA executives because Nike is one of the most liberal, easy organizations to endorse.
Yeah.
Like they will put up with a lot of your crap. Like Colin Kaepernick's situation or LeBron or you look at Tiger Woods, like they put up with an enormous amount of flack from their guys.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden they're not going to put up with it from Kyrie Irving. And they're thinking that this Kyrie they just released could be the last Kyrie that comes out from Nike. That sent up a lot of red flags. Because remember, a lot of former Nike executives now work in NBA front offices. And Kyrie is just an interesting, different bro.
Yeah.
And there's not a whole lot of organizations that want to deal with that. I think there's only two, the Lakers and the Chicago Bulls. I think those are the only two that would want to deal. He has burned his bridge in Cleveland and Boston. That ain't never going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? The Knicks, even the Knicks won't take that on. The Knicks will not take on Kyrie's baggage. The Lakers and the Chicago Bulls would willingly take him on. And I think if he goes to Chicago, I think Zach Levine absolutely is gone. I think Zach's a Laker before Kyrie ever hits the ground.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see how those two guys, because Zach Levine missed a hell of a lot of time. He just had successful surgery this week because he had knee and ankle injuries. There's some frustration that he is a me guy first. He was supposedly frustrated with all the attention DeMar DeRozan got.
Well,
justifiably so. I mean, that was before D-Rose showed up. That was Zach Levine's team. But you had so many injuries on that Bulls team, and you had the emergence of Ayo Dosunmu.
Yeah.
And you just had this confluence of events that I think lessened the importance of Zach Levine. Now he's an incredibly important guy to that roster, no doubt about it. But they figured out how to play without him because he was not there so often late in the season. So my point is, if you plug Kyrie into that situation and you take out a Zach Levine, you trade a Green or, you send Alex Caruso in that deal back to the Lakers, you could figure that stuff out.
Yeah.
I just think they're done with Kyrie in Boston.
And all of that to say, all these type of situations are all opportunities for the Jazz. They're all opportunities for them to get involved.
All right, let's get some of your comments in here. Jeremy Bolton says it's easier to watch a Jazz game in Alaska and Ohio than it is to watch in Utah. Man, JB,
Which is
you're
ridiculous.
Right. You're exactly right. Let's see. Jeremy, did you get your car?
Oh, yeah. What happened, dude?
Well, I don't want to out the car situation. Jeremy, if you want to talk about that, we didn't ask your permission to bring it up on the show, but I'd love to hear an update on that. Eric C. said, morning, Monty Town. Hope all is well. Eric, good to see you, buddy.
Yep.
He says, sheesh, imagine video of the team in the plane that hit the birds and had to emergency land.
Bro.
Right?
But on the other side of that, how sketch that is, how much attention would be around? Because here's what happens. This is what no one talks about. You put out all this video. It's not just about the damn fan base. It's not just about Jazz fans. Imagine what happens when ESPN's following the Jazz account because they put out so much video and you get more notoriety. People pay attention.
Well, look how much run the Clarkson Ingles video got.
Dude.
Where Joe was loving on Jordan Clarkson.
Yeah.
And by the way, don't let it be lost that Jordan Clarkson's black, Joe Ingles is white, and this is Salt Lake City.
Yes.
Because I think that dynamic matters. And when you have a black player winning a significant award in Salt Lake City, man.
And his best friend on the team is white. That's
huge.
A huge deal.
Huge. So, yeah, I agree with you, Eric. I think that's a really good point. Brandon Whiteside, good morning to you, my friend. He says, only thing where Ryan is lacking is we need streaming service now. Man.
Right?
To be able to watch Jazz games on your phone. So, and I think we'd all pay for it. I'd fucking pay for it, no problem.
Yeah.
If you said to me, hey, it's $5.99 a month to watch every Jazz game on your phone, where do I sign up?
Yeah, man.
Let me hit Apple Pay right now.
Yeah. Well, like, how are you not on YouTube?
You know, like seriously. And you know, this this thing with the shot in the arm and the thing on your face and staying home so you don't get the thing.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to get together, and we talked about this with RSL the other day.
Yeah.
I would love to get together and buy a bunch of Jazz fans beers at a Jazz game, or a hot dog, or, you know, a swig.
Or a sandwich.
And it's not caffeinated
Yeah.
and stuff. But I would love to, like, be able to do that stuff. But that has become more and more difficult. And I think as we move out of this period with the thing in the arm and the face and the don't get it.
How about that?
Once we move past that, you've got to become different. And I just hope, and I think he does, but I hope Ryan Smith already has his foot on the gas. Because the businesses that came out of the period with the thing in your arm and your face and your mom. Because YouTube doesn't allow us to talk about that.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I hope that he realizes the businesses who never stopped, who just kept their foot on the gas, are the ones that were thriving through this period.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Tanner Plummer says Ryan Smith will win multiple titles. Man,
Hey guys.
I feel like it would take an act of God for the Jazz just to win one. Probably not wrong.
You have that mindset because you don't know what's possible with a new owner. It's possible.
Yep. Jeremy Bolton says, no way AD plays like 8 games a year. Yeah, he's hurt. I want nothing to do with that. Gene's Stream Gamer says, huge disrespect on the Jazz. James Knight, good morning to you. Where's my 4X Gold?
Yeah, man.
And he only has one eyebrow. Is that right? Ryan Smith only has one eyebrow?
I have no idea.
That could be. Cody Strickland, Jazz respect level, none. They haven't proved anything. That's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Eric and Raleigh, good morning. The Jazz need to do a crossover with Eminem and D12 and bring back the Purple Hills
That's
jersey.
what I'm saying, bro. Like, bring back
Get
an
crazy.
iconic one, man.
Get crazy. Like, and this is why the gun violence thing with Ryan Smith, his tweet the other day at Steve Kerr bothered me. Okay, what are you going to do about it? Ryan Smith has all of these relationships. What are you going to do with those?
Yeah.
How are you going to leverage those? Make the lives of Utahns better. How are you going to do that? And I'm not talking about basketball. Okay, it's basketball time. Okay, great. Bring me celebrities. Dwayne Wade, you're an iconic figure in the black community. Bring me celebrities. Bring me relationships in the black community that help us get players and win championships.
Yeah.
Right? Whether that's jerseys, fashion, shoes, kicks, I don't care. Somebody do a collab with one of the shoe companies, Nike, or if you're Don, okay, Adidas. That's not really a shoe company anymore.
Nah.
They make shoes, but you know.
Yeah.
Somebody do a smoking hot fire collab on a shoe with, you know, Dornbach or somebody. Why are we not doing that stuff? Make it available only at the Jazz Arena. Why are we not doing that stuff? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, Ryan, you have all of this potential. You have anything you want. Money's not an object, billionaire.
Man.
So show me what you got. That's all I'm saying. Like, I don't dislike Ryan Smith. I think he's going to be a phenomenal owner. He's just going through a learning curve now. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I would love to sit down and have a 10-minute conversation with him and just be like, hey, man, come on the podcast. Let's sit down. Like, and hey, you know what? I'll ask for that. I will ask for him to sit down and do a one-on-one with us. And we'll go anywhere. Let's do it at center court at the arena. I don't care where. We'll video it. We'll all sit down and we'll just talk basketball. And we'll talk about the Jazz. And because I think that's what's missing. Who's done the State of the Jazz sit down one-on-one with Ryan Smith?